What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Sean Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in Long Island, New York. Mr. Fitzgerald, you forgot the tie today. Just going to point it right out. We're going to come in hot.
Hey, next time. I'll be better. I'll be better next time.
Listen, we're super excited. It has been a few months, I'd say, probably to make this happen. We've been back and forth with Nicole, and just super excited to make this happen. But we have Michael Streit on the podcast today, who is the president of EZLynx. Michael, how are you today?
I'm great. It's great to be here. Thank you both.
Michael, let's touch real quick before we get into the weeds here. What was the saying that got you the job back in 7th grade? I like that. We got to hit on that.
Yeah, so they were asking me how to pronounce my name. And the best mnemonic device is that it's the Streit way is the right way. And that was my campaign slogan for 7th grade vice president.
I love that. So all we have to do is take that, apply it to our agencies, come up with a great slogan. You're going to be good to go. Like Patrick McBride out of Illinois, choose McBride is his hashtag.
That's great.
I love that. We got to figure that out. All right, different podcast. Michael, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know there's a few specific topics that we want to jump in on, but before we get there, just tell us about Michael, where you're calling from, how you got to where you are today, how you got in the insurance space, and then we'll dive into what we want to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here in Lewisville, Texas, just outside Dallas. Is where EZLynx is headquartered. I'm president of EZLynx. I've led this business for almost 3 years. I'm new to insurance, so when I joined EZLynx, it was my first foray into insurance. I had spent the previous decade working in private equity. I was described like most private equity folks spend their time deciding what to buy and how much to spend on it. And then my job was what happened after that. So we go in and partner with businesses and try to make them more valuable, help them grow. All that. I worked for a gentleman 12 years ago named Graham Blackwell. And Graham is now the president of Applied. So Applied bought EZLynx, and about a year and a half later, he called me and said, we need someone to come lead the EZLynx business. And he's been a great mentor of mine, understood the business really well, awesome business. And the other thing I loved about the EZLynx opportunity was most of our customers are small business owners. And I grew up in a family. My dad was a small business owner. I have so much respect for the American entrepreneur. Many of your listeners I know. And so a chance to serve thousands of those customers it's a huge honor. So that's why I'm here. And I've been here since January of 2023.
Super cool. Can you talk to us about the transition from out of insurance into insurance, and maybe what you didn't expect, what you didn't know until you knew, and that type of thing? Because I mean, even on the vendor side that you are compared to the scratch agents that are listening, there's still some of our listeners that we know of that were completely green to the insurance space to start an insurance agency, or maybe got experience somewhere else and came in, and there's so much that you don't know until you're doing it. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I think on the one hand, insurance is just way more pervasive and complicated than you realize on the outside. Like, I didn't even think about my home and auto insurance. We bought a new house. I just got new homeowners insurance through that process. And it wasn't until I really reflected on how much of the economy just needs insurance to run that I realized what a lifeblood insurance is. And so that was just a kind of a realization, I would say. And it is really complicated. Especially we're doing work now to try to make our commercial lines submission process for our agents way more streamlined. Writing commercial insurance is complicated. We've got this simple framework, there's complex commercial and simple commercial. I'm like, man, it's all complex. And then you start talking about reinsurance. One point I asked somebody, I was like, who reinsures the reinsurers? It's bottomless, like turtles all the way down. So that was just an eye-opening for me, and I feel like I'm constantly learning. I joke I'm, in many cases, multiple generations behind my customers when it comes to experience.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, at the end of the day, like I said, our customers are small business owners, and the thing they sell happens to be insurance. The service they provide is a great service, related to buying insurance or getting your claim handled or all of that. And so when I started, it was really important to me to focus on the customer. I still try to meet with the customer every single day, Sometimes I'll just drop in. Sometimes someone will leave a really interesting comment on a survey or a Google review or something. I'll just call them out of the blue. So that's kind of the path I chose to learn, just talk to people and see what they're worried about. And what's interesting is most of the stuff that our customers are worried about don't have anything to do with insurance. They have to do with running a business, employees quitting, hiring, all that good stuff that we try to make their lives easier.
Mike, I'd love to ask you the question before we move on to some of the more like tactical stuff for the agents listening. What have you taken with you from the private equity space that you've used and applied to the insurance space?
That's a great question. So think about my role in private equity. I like to think I was serving multiple masters. So the folks that bought the company, so they obviously are, the people who spend their time doing the investing. They're obviously very, interested in making sure it goes well. Had to build trust with the management team, who often saw me as a spy planted in the company on behalf of the private equity firm. And boy, everybody's got a million ideas, And I thought the biggest thing that I could do to add value when I was working in private equity was simplify things. It's like, okay, there's a million things we could do to make this company more valuable. What are the 3 things, 4 things, 2 things that are the most important? And I took that here because you walk in here, 400 plus people work on EZLynx. Applied's a big company with a lot of competing priorities. How do we just focus on the few things that really matter and just be laser focused, relentless about that? That's been something I've tried to do with the team. And it's helpful not only to get the EZLynx team motivated. It's also helpful to go work with the rest of Applied. Say, no, this is really important. Like I literally call it the most important things. I'm looking at a poster in my office that says the 2025 most important things. And it's like, no, this is the most important thing. We really need to do this. This isn't just some random idea. That's really helpful for getting people bought in.
I love that. T5, that reminds me of the conversation we had in our mastermind yesterday about the quoting process. I remember there were some people in the group that were saying, oh, you should offer these multiple options and you should talk about this and that and this and that. And like, I think it came down to basically like simplifying is the best way to do it, because at the end of the day, to Michael's point, insurance can be very complex and it gets very overwhelming for somebody who doesn't know it. So I love the idea of simplifying it and making it as easy as possible to understand.
Well, let's flip the script on Scratch Agents. I think we talk about this, and we're almost 130 episodes into this journey. We've talked to 130 different people from 130 different backgrounds, whether it be agency, vendors, whatever it is. And I love the topic of just simplifying things. Because if you think of it from a majority of Scratch Agents are coming from a producer role to an agency owner role. And Sean and I've gotten to the point with this show and that we get calls often of people that are looking to switch. And the question is, what's it really like? What's it really like? Blah, blah, blah. And those are the producer to the agency owner, as Sean and I both know very well at this point, are completely different. And you talk about simplifying it. What do you need to do as a Scratch Agent? You need to generate revenue. Grow your business, and I think sometimes we find, I'm just as guilty as everybody else, that we get with the shiny objects of, we need to have this process down. We need to focus on this niche. We need to, have this tech tool because it can send a pigeon carrier to my clients without me even knowing. And all these things happen when it comes down to, I love the thing. Michael, what did you say is on the poster? The most important things?
Most important things, yeah.
So like, what are for Scratch Agents most important things? Okay, revenue. Working towards hiring that first CSR, working towards getting your first producer, all those things, and backing it into and simplifying that. I love that we have you on, Michael, and we're talking about this, because from the vendor side, it's completely different than what we're doing inside the agency, but it's all the same at the same time.
It's so interesting. I think about our customers, like our customers' P&Ls look very similar to the EZLynx P&L, because you have a bunch of customers that you sign up who, if you treat them really well, they're going to be profitable customers for a long time. It's like a book of business. So you generate a book of business by getting a new client. I get a book of business by signing up a new customer. And I think the thing that we really try, a lot of our sales are to Scratch Agents. Almost half of them are people who are doing this for the first time. And the thing we think about is, you're a Scratch Agent, you've got a bunch of cost that you've got to cover. And that's before you hire your first person. So to your point, I got to generate a bunch of revenue so that I can cover that cost. So we think like our job is a couple things. Number one is how do we help you build that revenue as fast as you possibly can? Number two, how can we make sure that you're so efficient that you can delay hiring the next person or investing in a VA or whatever it is so that you can get more profitable faster? And then how do we really make it easy for you to run your business with like simple reports, one tech stack? That's an area we try to be really, really intentional about. Is you could run a whole insurance agency on just EZLynx. Rating, management system, sales and marketing automation, reporting, accounting. It's all in one system. It's super easy. So that's kind of how we think about it. But it's interesting because my P&L is so similar to our customers, and different businesses, different widgets we're selling, but a lot of similarities.
Now, let me ask you this before we move on. I think that's the third time we tried to move on, but I love this topic. And I love how you said, I'll call people from a bad Google review, or I'll call people from a comment or whatever. And I love and appreciate the fact as a president of that company that you're so involved with the consumer and learning about them. And I think, again, pivoting to the Scratch Agent, it's the same thing. What do our clients either have a problem or need something that we sell? We need to solve that problem and provide them with that service, right? And you're doing the same exact thing. All those things that you just mentioned of efficient processes, of all those things that can benefit a Scratch Agent in the case of today's conversation, where do you find people go wrong when they're through that journey? Maybe you see somebody come in at the 2-3 year mark and things are all over the place. They have all these tech stacks. They have everything that looked amazing on the demo and is going to really help their agency take off, and now they don't use it. Where do you think people really take their eye off the ball of the most important things?
Yeah, great question. And I'll get to the answer in a second, but some context I think is helpful. We look at our agencies who are using our solution heavily, like all of the tools that we've got. We've got automation. We've got a tool called Retention Center that flags at-risk renewals. And we have a CRM, among other things. But we look at those three products in particular, say if you're heavily using this, what's your premium per employee? And if you're not using it, what's your premium per employee? And those that are heavily using it are like 50% more productive. They're managing 50% more premium per employee than those that don't. So with that, the reason I gave that wind up is I think the answer to your question is a couple fold. The biggest thing is they just don't take the time to learn the system and get it embedded in their actual workflows. So again, we come in and look at how's the agency running, but through the lens of utilizing our technology. A lot of times customers get shiny object syndrome with our own tech. We try really hard to make sure people have access to training. You can get trained a million ways on EZLynx, but if you don't take the time to do it, then you're sitting with a product that you're not getting the value that you can out of. That's the first thing. I do think the second thing is complicated tech stacks. I think we try to be one platform, everything's there, one vendor, one person to call, one support line, and importantly, one source of truth for the data. I think when agents get excited about a point solution that may in some instances do that single thing like a little bit better than the full platform, but they don't think about who's going to make sure that the APIs are hooked up, who's going to make sure that the data is moving around, what if these data things aren't in sync, what if my producer leaves the agency and they were the only one to log in or knew how to work it. So I think that's probably the second thing, and I'm sure they're related. Those that are spending their time, tying up really complicated tech stacks for 4 or 5 person businesses are probably also the ones not just taking the time to learn the ones that learn the tools that they have at their fingertips. That's what I see.
We've mentioned this in the past episode, Sean, but I think it's worth mentioning it again too. We talk a lot about, especially with the AI subject, right? There's all these different AI vendors that are AI phone receptionists, AI this, AI this. They all do this different thing. And putting Sean in the hot seat for a minute, like he had a situation with a phone provider where he was almost about to pull the trigger on an AI phone receptionist, but then realized his current provider offered that service, And so like, I think I've taken personally a different view on that. Like, do you need another login, Steven?
Oh yeah.
If you want to achieve this, whatever that is, AI this, automation this, whatever it might be, are your current tech tools offering that or coming out with it or whatever to keep things simple? And I think that's from the scratch agent standpoint, when you're looking at, getting started, producing revenue, trying to bring on a team, trying to grow the book. Like, do you need that? Is it, you get back to the want or the need conversation, but I think it also pivots to are any of the tools that you're working with now offer that as it is before you bring on, another piece of tech to make you more efficient?
Yeah, and to Mike's standpoint about utilizing the management system to the most of its capabilities, I'll never forget. I think it was like 3 years ago. I spoke to like a highly respected CFO, specifically in the insurance space, and that was one of the things they said to me. They said, "Sean, you're underutilizing your management system, and you need to start maximizing it." And when I started looking at it, I'm not making this up. I think I was maybe using 25-30% of what it could actually do. So I do think agents, not purposefully, we do leave a lot on the table, and there are a lot of things our management system can do that we don't take advantage of. All right, Mike, I wanted to get into a couple of tactical things here. What could agents do to, and I'm guilty of this in the past. I'm guilty of a lot of things apparently, but what could agents do to turn like the existing data in their agency management system from EZLynx standpoint into like actual sales opportunities without needing like some sort of like data analyst on their team?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it starts with hygiene on the front end. It's like there's only so much systems can do when the data in is not good.
Yeah, great point.
That's just the reality of everything.
Yeah.
I think that's going to become even more of a differentiator as we and others build out AI capabilities that will tap into the data. Imagine you're an agent who's done the hard work of keeping the data clean. Now you can unleash an AI tool on that, and your competitor has not, and that AI tool is going to get confused. So that's the first thing, is like make sure there's discipline. I'd go back to simplification here as well. I think if you're coaching your producers to keep track of 100 different data fields when it comes to a prospect, that's not good. That's hard. Someone's going to forget to do it or whatever, double count. So I'd say think of the things that really, really matter. Make sure your team's tracking those.
Yeah.
And then I like to start small, honestly, or simple. One of the things we try to do is we surface cross-sell opportunities. Super straightforward. If you have home but not auto, why not? And you can run campaigns at those groups. We do the same thing with our customers, by the way. If you have some of our tools but not all of them, pretty straightforward. So that's kind of how I think about it. And then you can build from there. I think people get in trouble. Some of the best agents that I've worked with have really simple sales funnels, but they're really disciplined about following it. And that'd be my kind of guidance.
I love that. Yeah, I love the hygiene aspect of it because, Stephen, this is something, again, we've talked about in the past. Is like, so when I first opened the agency, from a fact-finding perspective, I talked to somebody who's looking for home, auto, flood insurance. I had a Google Doc, and I'd, just go through the Google Doc and then save the information in our CRM. But then when I hired a sales producer, what I noticed the issue is that they would kind of skip around the Google Doc. Sometimes they wouldn't answer 1, 2, or 3 questions. And then like once Stephen and I started using a specific intake form that collected the same data every single time, that made a really big difference. And I can see there's definitely, like you said, a fine line. You don't want to try to get too much info because it can get very overwhelming from the customer or prospect standpoint. But I love that idea of hygiene. What do you see the best-in-class agents doing from that hygiene perspective? Is it just having like a specific intake form they use, or any other tools?
I think intake form is definitely one of the common characteristics, for sure. Being very disciplined about the lead sources. Some of the fastest-growing agents have really good referral networks, obviously, with lenders or whoever, and so being disciplined about that and recognizing that that's a major important characteristic of a lead, is where it came from, and treating those slightly differently. I'd also say good training and good buy-in from the your employees. I think the best insurance agents that I've worked with have long tenured employees that get the joke and run the play. And then there's a little bit of a shameless plug, but some of our fastest growing agents really take advantage of our automations in the system. And that can be automation of communications, like I'm going to hit customers with a certain email campaign on a regular basis. That's going to be tailored with, based on what you already own or what you don't own. And it can also be automation of like activities, like you sign up for you sign up, it'll automatically send your ID cards and all that. Also, you lose a deal, and we're going to send you an automatic outreach 11 months later, right before your policy expires. That kind of thing is what I see as the differentiators.
I think, Sean, what's interesting is, I mean, we talked about this in the past too, but developing those processes, I love the theme of this podcast so far is just simplification, because it makes so much sense. I'm going to have a poster. I'm going to send you a picture later on my wall. I'm having a poster up on the wall by the end of the day.
I'll send you guys mine too. I think hard copy is the most important things.
But I love that, because we talk a lot about the processes and procedures, and with that we talk about when you're a scratch agent, if it's just you're doing everything, right? And Sean and I have both been there. We know a lot of people that have been there. We know what that's like. The thing that people can overlook is acting like the agency they want to be. Having these processes and procedures in place of this goes to here. And I think where we've talked with people where that can get fuzzy as well, that CSR is not here yet. Well, okay, you are the CSR in that case. So at what point will you eventually hand that over to the CSR? At what point will you eventually hand that over to the quoting team and setting that up? And if you look at that, a reason I think a lot of people maybe don't do that from the get-go is they don't want to overcomplicate it. But if you can just simplify that process around your tools, around the data entry, collecting your data, next thing you know, you get to a point where you have all of these customers in your system. It's a lot easier to cross-sell those and set up the processes around that.
Yeah. So you go, Mike. Sorry.
I was going to say, we hear new agents, often scratch agents, say, I'm going to buy your rater because I need it to expedite the quoting process. I'm not ready for a management system. I'm going to come back to you in a management system in a year.
Can't imagine.
And it's like, okay, we'll talk in a year. Happy to do that. But think of all the data you could be storing. Simple stuff, like we said. You're going to talk to hundreds of customers in the first 6 months of being an agency. You're not going to sell most of them. There's still potential customers later. It's setting up processes that are eventually going to scale. We think about the retention workflow a ton, particularly in this market. How can you make sure that you're treating your customers really well at the point of renewal? We've got a lot of tools that can help you automate that whole thing. But if you're trying to do it off a Excel sheet or whatever, you're going to get stretched, and you're just punting a decision, down the line.
Yeah, I remember when I was an agent at a nationwide agency, they had, so this was before AMSs and CRMs were real big. This is probably, 13 years ago. I would go, because Nationwide was captive at the time, everything was in one easy portal. And I remember, and this is just reinforces the idea of why the data hygiene is so important. I remember I went into the system, I could click a button, and I was working at an agency that was around for 20 plus years, and they were basically writing with Nationwide the entire time. So I can go in, once I had a little bit of experience, they let me go in, click a button, and it basically said, hey, here's your list of everything, home, no auto, no home. And it had all the data points. If you write the auto, they're going to save 22% on the home. If you write the home, they're going to save 31% on the auto. And to make those outbound calls was so simple because I had all the data just easily, readily in front of me. And I wrote a ton of business that way. So I could totally see why having that clean data just makes perfect sense, especially if you can run reports super easily, But
to just make a point on that. Sorry, Sean. One more thing on that. I think we talk a lot about the shiny object syndrome, and when you're starting scratch, you maybe only have so much money, and when you're starting scratch, an agency management system in any capacity could be one of your biggest expenses. But to Mike's point, think about the opportunities that you're potentially losing down the road because you don't have that clean data. I love the data hygiene point.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get started, if you're a year and 2 years in without a management system, all those opportunities that you're missing, all those potential contacts that you had throughout that process. So that's like, on the needs side of the column, right, to get something going successfully. Again, bringing it back to the theme of acting like the agency that you want to be.
Yeah. So the topic of keeping things simplified, let's move the conversation slightly over to AI, which is, of course, super simple, right? So, Mike, I want to ask you, like, what near-term ways do you think AI will change agency workflows, and how do you think agents should prepare for that? I know that's kind of a loaded question.
It's a great question. That is the multi-million-dollar, multi-billion-dollar, multi-trillion-dollar, whatever it is, question. We think about it a ton, as you can imagine. I think the biggest thing that AI can do is drive efficiency. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
We ask our agents every time we survey them, what do you want out of your management system? And the biggest thing they all say, it doesn't matter if they're scratch or established or tech forward or whatever, they want it to drive efficiency. And that's what AI can do. So what we've been doing is looking at time spent, the time that our agents spend in various workflows, and trying to figure out how do we take a 3-hour quoting process and turn it into a 30-minute process by extracting data from deck pages. That's a real thing that we have in beta right now. More stuff coming down the line where we could extract more information or automate more of that. So that's one thing. I just think it's going to make things happen a lot faster, which is good. The other thing that I think a lot about, or we think a lot about, is there's a ton of data in the management system today. And some of it's in documents. You could have the best hygiene in the world, but you're trying to get at some information on a document that's attached to some account. It's actually not that easy to go find, does this restaurant I'm insuring have liquor liability? And so we think AI is a way to start to do some of that, to get at information in the system. So the way to prepare for, and we're working really hard on that, I would say if you're an agency who's interested in pushing the envelope with AI and helping us figure some things out as we go, we have some cool AI use cases in the product now, but we also have stuff in beta and we're testing things. So please reach out to us. We'd love to put you, if you're one of our customers, put you in a beta and start testing some stuff. The other thing I would say, though, is I talked to a COO of a large alliance network, and we were talking about this concept of searching data that's in the document. And he's taken that message and going to his agents and saying, see, this is why you have to store the data now, because it's going to be more accessible later. I know today it's just as easy to go find it, whatever, in the carrier portal. But if you save it down and have that here, eventually we're going to be able to do this kind of thing. So I would probably put a finer point on this notion of data hygiene and start to get ready for it.
So from the quoting perspective, that is very interesting, because we literally had this conversation in our community this morning. Is like, how long does the quoting process take for personal, personal, commercial, but for personal lines accounts? I think it all depends on your market, what carriers you have access to. Is it regionals? Is it nationals, et cetera? So if it is a 3-hour process currently, because you have
I should clarify, a single account is not 3 hours, but when we look at an agent's day, a typical one of our customers is spending 2 to 3 hours a day doing quoting. So if we can, so it's not on a single customer. I should have made that more.
No, it's okay. I mean, heck, I have some that take 2 hours here in coastal New York. So if AI can make it more efficient by automatically extracting the data from deck pages, that would definitely make sense. Because I feel like it's easy. Listen, if you're a licensed producer, it's easy enough to pull up a deck page. Does it exclude water backup? Does it not? What's the animal liability, et cetera? You should be able to figure that out in a few seconds by looking at the deck page. But if it does it instantaneously and puts it into a rater, that would be pretty nice to just help the duplicate entry, because I feel like that's still a bit of a problem, is like you're putting the information into an intake form, then you're taking the information from the intake form and you're putting it into several carrier portals, and then the underwriters are coming back with information. So yeah, if there's a way to speed that process up, via AI, that would be very beneficial, I believe. What's your thoughts on that, T5?
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. I think it makes it's again fitting into the process. I mean, it's back to the same thing, fitting into the process, because it's like, as agents, this is off topic, but I'll come back. Don't you worry. Recently, we've been having a conversation of and maybe this is Sean and I, 4 a.m. text messages complaining about the world, but about carrier reps and how they truly don't understand the amount of work that we do as an agency. Not going to say all, especially for those I love that.
There's some good ones,
not you, of course, but I like the amount of work in it. And boiling that down to the simplification of the process. What is the goal you're trying to achieve? What steps do you have to take to get there? And we talk about the AI. Is it enhancing it? I mean, we go back to the whole conversation on all these Facebook groups. AI is going to replace the independent agent. Well, so was Geico. Geico was supposed to, and now they're offering independent agent contracts, right? What can we as scratch agents, as forward thinkers on the vendor side, whatever it be, think about how we're going to use these tools and technology to enhance the services that we're providing, whether that's on Michael's side of the services for agents or on our agent side of the services for our clients. And I think back to that mantra every time we talk about the AI discussion, the technology, what's next, what's coming down the road, because it's changing every single day. But it boils down to what is going to help us to enhance the service we're providing, at least in my mind. Michael, what's your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. I've been on panels and heard things like, if you're not, this is a year ago, if you're not already deep in AI, it's going to put you out of business. Okay, here we are a year later, we're not out of business yet, Mm-hmm. I personally think that agents should be really excited about AI, because the type of work that can be automated is the type of work that doesn't differentiate you, actually. What differentiates you is the conversations you have with your clients, being there for them, and maybe they're texting you at 4 a.m. because they've got a sump pump back up and they got to figure out how to process a claim. And if you can spend more time doing that and less time entering data or hunting and pecking through the system to find the answer to a question, that's really good. And I think that's actually, I see AI as a huge opportunity, particularly for the independent agent who is wearing multiple hats. It's funny, our tagline has always been your most productive employee. We've been saying that for 15 years. And now with AI, it actually kind of feels like that. Like, this is an employee that can go do the tedious work so that you can be on the phone with your client when something bad happens.
Yeah, even from Steven, and I've been meaning to talk to you. We don't get to talk much nowadays, but
Sean doesn't answer my calls anymore. He's too busy.
But even from a employee training standpoint, where I found AI to be very beneficial for the agency, and this is just something I've been meaning to share, is if you guys haven't played with Google Notebook LM, so it's actually a really fantastic training product. And I wouldn't have looked at it that way, but I have a brother-in-law who's a teacher in the city, and he does a lot of technology stuff. And he mentioned it to me, and he's like, well, how do you do your training now? And I told him I record a Loom video of me sharing my screen, going through the exact task. And then Loom actually just creates the SOP within the product. So you can put that in a Google Doc or whatever. But what you can do now is take the video, whatever training video you have, drag and drop it into Notebook LM, and Google will actually create a podcast that sounds 100% real, by the way, based off of the video, just talking back and forth about the specific training item. It'll create a study guide and FAQs. So it's I feel like to Mike's standpoint, you have to not get lost in all the tech, but you just have to focus on the ones that are going to make your agency more efficient, so you can utilize your time on revenue generating tasks.
100%. Well, if anybody's wondering why this is my last episode with my camera on, it's because Sean's replaced me as a co-host with Google Online. So it's been a good ride. Appreciate everybody listening along. Mike, we're going to wrap this up for time. Thank you again for taking the time. I think that was an incredible conversation. I got simplify written down on my notes about 8 times over here.
So good.
I just love the conversation and appreciate you taking the time. For people that want to learn more about what you're doing or follow your journey, the company in general, what's the best place for people to get in touch with you guys?
You can go on EZLynx.com, fill out a form. We'd love to get in touch with you. You can find me on LinkedIn. I love talking to agents. So, and then we have our user event next month in Las Vegas called AppliedNet. I've been to a lot of user conferences in my life. I hate most of them, but we do it really, really well. It's awesome. It's a chance to get hands-on, kind of see the whole applied ecosystem, which we didn't get a chance to talk about today, and sit with our product team. Our product team will ask a bunch of questions. That actually is the first step in our roadmap for next year, is getting feedback there. So would love to have folks at AppliedNet, and you can find that on our website as well.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
And thank you very much to all the EZLynx customers listening. We really appreciate you.
Good stuff. Thanks again, Mike. We appreciate everybody. That's another episode of the Scratch Agency Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. And most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, and own your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.